Thank you very much for that kind introduction. Great to be at this conference again. This is one of my most enjoyable conferences in the calendar. It's nothing like getting all the explorers together and getting all the speculators very excited. So I think this is one of the really exciting moments as far as, in my limited career in the resources space. This is up there with one of those real sort of key junctures, I think, for the industry. So a fantastic time to be an investor, and a fantastic time especially to be investing in the smaller end of the mining industry. So I'll start with our forward-looking statements. I do occasionally make them. These are some disclosures and disclaimers related to those. These are available to read in full on our website or on the ASX. And given where we are here in Fremantle, I'd like to acknowledge the Whadjuk and Yuid traditional owners at Julimar, but also acknowledge their elders past, present and emerging. So who is Chalice? I think everyone knows full well what we've done really over the last few years since the Julimar discovery, but our track record really speaks for itself. We are a combination of mine finders, but also very commercially minded people. So we don't muck around with projects. We get on with it. We drill. We move aggressively, and then we take a very strong commercial approach to exploration and development projects. Our purpose is clear. It's finding the metals needed. Quite frankly, the world does not need more commodities in a certain sense, but in commodities like nickel, copper, cobalt, lithium, uranium, there is going to be insatiable demand for things like this. So our aspiration really here is to turn our starting discovery in this new province into a whole new industry almost for Western Australia. We are ASX 200 listed. We are focused on green metals. Like I said, some of our achievements listed there. We are a strong board with a diverse mix of experience. Market cap 2.4 billion today, almost 100 million in cash as of the end of last year. The register has been the topic of some speculation over the last few months. BlackRock is the newest addition to our major institutional shareholders. We also do have a corporate now sitting at 4.9%, which is very interesting. And I guess what we see is that the institutional share of the register is growing rapidly over time. So Julimar, I think everyone knows that it's this remarkable new discovery almost on the other side of the hills, north of Perth here. It's a 350 million tonne resource at 0.58% nickel equivalent, or if you think in PGE terms, 1.8 grams palladium equivalent. Like I said, we haven't mucked around. We've got 70% of that number in indicated category. Now it is a tier 1 scale resource, so it's comparable in grade to a Mount Keith or Yakabindi, for those who know the Nickel West portfolio in BHP. Except this is split into a number of different commodities. This is about half precious metals, so 11 million ounces of precious metals, predominantly palladium, and about half in base metals, so 560,000 tonnes of nickel. And most people would be very shocked to see a number of that size in sulfide form. Sulfide discoveries are typically more in the range of 20 to 100,000 tonnes of nickel. 360,000 tonnes of copper, 54,000 tonnes of cobalt. It is effectively a 20 million ounce precious metal system, or equivalent to a 2 million tonne nickel system. But it also has a high grade component to it, and that's really where the focus of the work is at the moment. There's 80 million tonnes there with almost double the grade. So obviously there's quite an interesting starter option there that needs to be investigated. And the mineralisation there starts from 30 metres below surface, extends down to 700, but the overall depth, or the deepest part of the host intrusion that we know about, is about 1.6 kilometres deep. And we are still drilling, trying to find the limit of the mineral system there. So we do have a resource update that's going to be out in a few weeks. That's going to contain about 110 infill drill holes, as well as about 80 new wide space step out holes. So this is a very significant new resource, a very significant new project for the state and the company. Our strategy here is that, this is a very large undertaking. We are looking at strategic partnerships to help us develop this asset, but are also, keeping the exploration focus going, because there are literally hundreds of other potential Julimar complexes now that need to get the very first drill hole into them in this new province. So we have a growing team of geologists, we have a growing team of engineers and study professionals, and we are just scratching the surface really here on this project. The demand for these green minerals, I think, is obvious. Most presenters would have gone through this. I think the blind spot for the industry at the moment is just how much lithium and nickel is going to be required for electrification, as well as obviously copper. I think the PGEs and I guess general development and R&D into catalytic converters is a massive blind spot that is going to rear its ugly head. I think hybrid vehicles are an obvious solution, but require even more PGEs than internal combustion engines. And platinum and palladium is a very much tight supply side dynamic. Those who are following what's happening in South Africa at the moment would see that guidances are down 20% in some of those PGE mines. And obviously Russia is a pariah state, so is very much off the list of potential candidates to bring on new supply. So that's going to be a very interesting picture over the next year or so to see what happens to PGE prices. We are in a sensitive area. We are committed, as it says there, to strong environmental stewardship. We've already got a plan to achieve a no net loss biodiversity goal for the project. We are already demonstrating the commitment. We've got very low impact exploration techniques underway in the Julimar State Forest, which obviously hosts most of the strike length of the Julimar complex. We're doing things properly, and we're also contributing to the local community. So we're already seen as a potential, really strong economic diversification source and employment source for that local community. And like I said, our friends at the Yuid and Whadjuk traditional owners, they're very much supportive of what we're doing, and we've had very active engagement with over 60 traditional owners as part of monitoring activities to date. It is a strategic asset, what we've found. Australia really has negligible PGE production. Obviously it has diminishing nickel production as well. Class 1 nickel, sulfide nickel, as well as PGEs. These are very, very rare types of discoveries, and tier 1 scale discoveries of this type are even rarer again. So the Australian government is doing the right thing, supporting explorers, supporting developers, and putting money into accelerating projects. We're also getting a lot of inbound interest, like we've said over the last 6 months since the IRA Act was passed in the US. That's really sort of put the emphasis to the OEMs, the auto industry, the battery industry as a whole. They need to go out and become miners. So they are very much interested in what we are doing, and that is only going to grow as people would know. These battery gigafactories are being built, and they are looking to secure the raw materials. Even one company came out a few days ago and said, basically at any price, Class 1 nickel, so the sulfide nickel found at Julimar as well as across WA, it has a strong advantage relative to the exploding industry, if you like, in Indonesia. There's a hell of a lot of laterite being produced, and the industry there in Indonesia is scaling up rapidly, but that is pretty much constrained to, really China is going to be the only customer for that material. There is significant ESG sustainability challenges surrounding NPI as well as other laterite nickel sources. So class 1 nickel is going to be what is needed for the Western world. Julimar, on a nickel basis alone, is the 4th largest undeveloped nickel sulfide resource in Australia. But if you consider our byproduct credits from PGEs, copper, cobalt, we're up there in scale terms with West Musgrave, which has just recently been acquired or will be acquired by BHP. And then as you can see to the left of us, really it is getting dominated by much larger companies than us. People would be familiar, no doubt, with the scale of this resource. Really, that resource, 350 million tonnes, is constrained largely to a single open pit, a conceptual pit here, which, as you can see, strikes over about 2 kilometres. It's entirely on Chalice-owned farmland. We own the surrounding farmland with about 5 kilometres in all directions. And that pit extends currently down to 600 metres, but like I said, that is going to be updated here very shortly. There is about 80 step-out holes towards the bottom left-hand side of the page there that are going to be incorporated and modelled into that resource update. So expect to see growth as well as an improvement in our confidence level as well, where we've drilled 110 tight space drill holes that's going to define our first measured category resource as well. Looking at the Gonville intrusion itself, and as well as the continuation to the left there going north, the Hartog segment of the complex, this is about 3.5 kilometres of the strike length. The rigs are now really right on the left-hand side of this page, drilling that Hartog intrusion. It does appear that there's an offset, and we really sort of cracked that code late last year. Really what we're looking for in these systems is complexity. Geometric complexity is really where you can channel and focus the sulfide deposition. So really here going forward is not really about adding tons, it is about adding grade, the high grade, finding these localised high grade accumulations in the system, because obviously they can move the needle for the value of the project. Some of the recent results, as well as the northern end of the resource there, you can see there 157.5 metres at 0.8% nickel equivalent, which included 48 metres at 1.7% nickel equivalent. Quite extraordinary widths and grades. Typically, nickel sulfide intersections there, really, you're lucky if you get 2 to 3 metres. Here it is completely, that is the unique part of this project, to get such width. In terms of how we're going to process these metals, it comes with obviously complexity, more so than a Mount Keith and a Yakabindi, where you're not dealing with other metals. We have 6 payable metals here. What we're very fortunate is that there is mechanisms and processes around to achieve this. So what we're contemplating really is a hybrid between a precious metals style of processing flow sheet, which is a leach style of flow sheet, and we're hybridising that with a sulfide flotation flow sheet. So the left-hand side of the flow sheet there really is very simple. Float the copper, and we get about 70% of the PGEs following the copper into a nice saleable copper concentrate. Beautiful product to send to a variety of copper smelters internationally. On the right-hand side, there is a lot of work to do yet to finalise this, but we're looking at avenues to get to a nickel cobalt MHP, and the reason why that's significant is because the battery customers are demanding the nickel in that form, so that then they can go to a sulfate, and then that is suitable for their cathodes. So really, that's really the focus of the next 6 months is finalising that right-hand side of that page. We're also looking at grind size as well as leaching, like we said late last year, to before we go out with our scoping study. There are 5 drill rigs still at Julimar. There's also another rig drilling about 30 kilometres northeast of Julimar complex at a target called Bajording. So we are very much getting on with regional exploration. We've got mineralised strike here of at least 10 kilometres. So we do have a gap in our drilling from Hartog down to up to Hooley there. But then at Hooley, we're getting a very nice, consistent 100 to 200 metre true thickness part of the Julimar complex, and it's exactly the same geology as what we see down at Gonville. There is obviously a lot of work to do to uncover the full scale of this 30 kilometre belt. As I said as well, this is just 100 square kilometres of our 8,000 square kilometre land package as well. So we have a very, very intense regional exploration activity level going on at the moment, and the prize, like I said, is these high grade accumulations, which we know are there, and we intersected in the very first hole at Julimar. So resource update, obviously this quarter, scoping study this year, really we need to get that resource updated and reflected in our models, and really, we are a unique proposition in the market, is really a world-class asset. Nickel copper exposures are becoming very, very hard to get. We've got a team with the track record of how to do it, and we've got a lot of growth to go. We're really just starting the process here at Julimar and the West Yilgarn. Thank you very much.